Good afternoon, Internet. My name is Paul Moyer, and this is my open air studio in Lake Forest, California. It is about 12:15 and about 80 degrees, and absolutely no wind, and about 10% humidity. So we're going to make a raw sienna right in a tin. And I really use a lot of raw sienna. So I would say we'll put in at least 30 millimeters. Well, here's maybe even okay. Here we go. And so we're going to go on with raw sienna. We're going to put a bit of a standard medium and we're going to do it with my precise method. And while we're at it, we will add just a bit of glycerin, also a very standard component in watercolor medium. I want to make sure that this is thick. I don't want it wash. I can always get a wash by adding more water, but I want to have a nice pasty mixture, which it looks like I'm getting. Very, very good, very thick, and and I've just added the thickener, the Acacia Senegal powder. In fact, though, I want to add more. How much more do I want to add? Let's go one more tablespoon. You can always add just a tad of water if it gets lumpy, but right now we're absorbing the water that's already in the wet pigment that we got from Jacquard, a nice little establishment in the town of Healdsburg in wine country. Just the most wonderful town you'd ever want to visit. It is so quaint. You think you have arrived back in time. the town square looks like not a single building has been changed in 100 years. Yep, it's a time warp place. We stayed at a B&B in Healdsburg with our friends David and Kathleen. Hey David. Hey Kathleen. That was a nice place, wasn't it? Nice place, super nice place to visit when you're going through wine country. And so now we've got a very thick paint. Very thick. It might be difficult to put it in a tube. Just as well I don't have any more tubes left. If you've been following along, you know we've, I don't know, done about 10 or 15 paints. Just can't keep track of them, but a lot of the ones that I've done previously were not Jacquard products. They came from Color Rare and Sennelier and Gamblin. Gamblin sells pigments, but they also make oil colors. Sennelier, the same. They don't make watercolors, but they do sell their pigments. So Gamblin and Sennelier. And also Color Rare. Now Color Rare, when the pigments you get there are really finely ground. There's really no need to use the pestle grinder or anything else to grind the solids of your pigments. Just add water and gum arabic and vegetable glycerin. Okay, so here in this Raw Sienna, I have no additives yet. And I think I want to just try one or the other, so I am going to add a granulation medium, and I'm going to add I'm going to add 5 milliliters. That ought to knock the socks off of the granulation. Got a 5-gallon bucket under the table here, so I keep ducking down. But it's harder to use a 5-gallon bucket. I got a 1-gallon pot and a small container. Okay, so we've just put in the granulation medium, 5 milliliters on about 50, maybe 75 milliliters. Look at it. See if it's already going to work. It of course added some moisture, and now our pretty thick medium is much thinner. Much thinner. Oh, I don't know if I'm liking that. I wanted this to be a little bit thicker. I get it's getting there. The gum arabic is flowing and going to the moisture content in the mix here. It's still, I could come back to this and put more gum arabic in it, but I'm pretty much topping out here, and I believe that the granulation medium is pretty much absorbed, but I was surprised how wet it got from the previous very pasty mixture. But then again, I think in usual terms, I think I probably put a whole lot of granulation medium in here. It may account for 10% of the moisture content. So, well, I think we're going to see some differences. See if I have a spare small container for traveling, and also, ew, I got a little mess. I don't want to mess everything up. So here's that excess gum arabic that I spilled all over the place. And we are going to get our field half pans, our palette. It's a nice palette. It's got a little hook underneath it so you can hold it with your thumb through the hook instead of your thumb through the paint. And now the raw sienna is right below the red. So we're going to put filled to overflowing. That'll help keeping the half pans from sliding around. Nice and clean. So, oh yeah, let's well, it's not opaque. I mean, it is opaque. It's not transparent. Wow. Okay. So we're building up our half pans. Of course, you can get a bunch of those half pans, and the magnetic kind. But I like this kind that slide in to say an existing set of pans, half pans. Just snap the bad one out and the new one in. So, raw sienna, we're going to test it. Let's put away the emerald green from our last test, and put the raw sienna pot in the palette, on the mixing palette, and oh, I never filled that up. Oh, big deal. Okay, put these guys away, out of the way, and here was our last test of the very transparent, wash-like emerald green. And now we have the Jacquard Raw Sienna. I think I forgot to wet the palette. My beaver brush there, or my badger brush. Then I'm going to use my favorite mop brush. Well, that's a pigment. Huh. I would have thought that it would have been more opaque. Certainly is opaque all over the surfaces. No, and I can tell you that will lift very easily. Let's do dry on dry. Let's clean this brush out. Soak up the moisture. Still pretty wet. No, that's too wet. So let's put it on. Wet on dry. Well, I always say dry on dry. Dry brush. We'll be back. We're back. We're going to do a little more testing on the raw sienna. And we can see, well, we'll see, it doesn't, it's staining a little, depending upon how much water I put on it and how long it's been sitting there. It does lift. These were pretty dry and they still lifted, and we didn't scrub them much in order to lift what we did here. So I'm pretty sure that we'll pretty much get back to the white space. The thing that we have so much difficulty can't have preserving. I mean, the best preservation is no paint at all, and then lifting is the second best, and the worst choice is to put down a masking fluid. Often the masking fluid, well, its results look fairly artificial. The edge isn't a natural edge to it for watercolor. And you know, it's just not always a wonderful look, and often, very often, the paper is of a quality. You know, I mean, people don't always buy the most expensive paper, but even so, even on some expensive papers, you put down a resist or a masking fluid, and you lift it up, and it tears up the 100% cotton 300-pound paper, and it just looks terrible. I do have an example of that. You know, I just ended up trashing. When we go and critique more papers, or when we just critique the papers, we'll cover that, but I will tell you for certain which paper you can never use a masking fluid on, because it just tears up. It's a fairly expensive paper. A quarter imperial size now costs $3.50 when you buy it in a tablet. Anyway, so now we've talked out these two colors, Raw Sienna and Emerald Green. Au revoir from Southern California.